Good afternoon. Can you hear me just fine? Louder? Can you hear me just fine, everybody? Yeah. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for coming to this celebration. Can you?
Yeah, they can't hardly.
No? Okay. Shall I come scoot?
So let me move the podium. And we'll just put it It'll echo a little more in here.
Is this better?
Yes.
Yeah, much better. Welcome and thank you for coming to the celebration of Donna's life. Our Donna.
Yes, yes.
My nickname for Donna was and will always be Donna Wanna. I know that my Donna Wanna, she's a mother, companion, ex-wife, friend of many, will always remain part of our lives. Today I'm sharing with you for a brief moment the impact that my cousin had on me, as well as a tad of our family background. My late mother and Donna's mother, late Aunt Clarice, were sisters. Both sisters were born in Anguilla, British West Indies. And Anguilla is a neighboring island of St. Martin, if that will help. They both migrated in the 40s and early 50s to the island, the Dutch islands of Curacao. They were in search of employment, and many islanders at that time, several islanders, migrated to Curacao when the refinery Shell was established there. Donna's mother, Aunt Clarice, returned to Anguilla, and my mother stayed in Curacao and married my dad. Aunt Clarice, Donna's mother, from Anguilla moved to St. Thomas with Donna. So Donna was born in Anguilla, and the two of them migrated to St. Thomas. I was born in Curacao, and Donna remained in St. Thomas with her mother, and I stayed with my siblings in Curacao. When I came, the first time I met Donna was in 1986. I've never met her as a child. I was 22 by the time I met her. But while growing up in Curacao, my mother, Annie, Donna called her Aunt Annie, and Donna had a very special bond, because when Donna was all the way in California, she would send letters on a regular basis to my mom, and paintings and photos when she married. So we were able to follow her life. She was consistent with it. So I felt as if I knew her very well, even though I never met her. You know? There were two pictures that we had in our living rooms. It was one when she, at her wedding ceremony, toasting with a champagne, and the other one was the one right here in the Navy uniform. And my mother had it in a chest there with the pictures just hanging there, so you just see her. So she was part of, even though like I said, I don't know her, but I felt like I know her. And once my mother would read her letters, she would pass the letters on and we will read. And Donna is 11 years my senior, and one thing that stuck to me as a kid was the fact that she was able to follow through with our names. You know, how was Terry doing? Did she pass her exam? She was very detailed. I'm like, wow, she remembers and she cared about what I needed to be doing next. Did she pass her swimming classes? How is Errol doing? Did she get to the black belt? I mean, she was very detailed and inquiring about us, and I thought that was a very loving thing. So when I arrived in Los Angeles, she continued to ask about her cousins, whom she never met. They're living in the Netherlands, and she's just talking to them talking about them firsthand, like she didn't skip a beat, and that loving heart of hers really touched me to the core. Even when I arrived in California, this is another thing that I remembered. My mom said, make sure you call your cousin Donna. I mean, does she know me? I mean, what am I going to? And my mom was extremely bossy. So I didn't want her to call me again, and I said I didn't call Donna. So I called Donna. I said, hi, Donna. This is Terry and Annie's, I didn't finish saying daughter. And she said, Terry! I was like, oh, that is so beautiful for somebody who never met you and so enthusiastic to meet you. And I said, I'm here to go to school. And she's like, will you be staying on your vacation? And I said, I will be staying. I'm going to this college. And she said, give me your address. And I gave her my address. That was on a Monday. I will never forget that. And by Friday, she was in her blue Cherokee Jeep with Chris and Nicole, 5 and 6-year-old, wrapped up with blankets, running in. And I thought that was so on point. She didn't skip a beat. She didn't allow another week to go by before she came to see about a cousin whom she never met. And she called me child. Child, how are you? Child. And I would get, I'm all right, Donna Wana. And she said to me, what are you doing here by yourself? Come with me. And I said, oh, where are you? I don't know. I have to switch school. And she was like, you do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And that was Donna. You know, she didn't pressure you. She didn't, and it stuck with me. And when I got the news, and that's one thing that came to my mind. You do whatever you want. You come, you stay, it doesn't matter. You're still part of my life. It resonated with me from all those years that she said that to me. And she never pressured me for anything. So, when we talked on the phone, I would have loved to talk to her more often. We did talk, maybe once a month. It was very hard to catch Donna on the phone. Donna Wana will let that phone ring, like, where are you? Oh, child. I'm like, okay, Donna, when you're ready. So then I felt extremely heavy because I'm living in Los Angeles by myself. She is my only relative that I have here in California. And I took great pride when people say, are you here by yourself? But no, I have a cousin up north. It felt so good saying it because even though I'm far, I felt good to know that she was there, you know? So when I got that news, it just like, I'm not gonna be able to say I have a cousin in California, you know, in California, that bond, I sat and I reflected on our conversation. And we talked of just about, when we did speak, we spoke. And she had a lot that she taught me. I think as we were gathering here and eating, I was able to share with some of you. She had a lot of wisdom. She was filled of love. And we talked about forgiveness, and we talked about our family traits, and we talked about, we laughed a lot. She has a tremendous sense of humor. And we laughed, we talked about all these, you know, these phrases, Caribbean phrases that none of y'all knew about, that we knew about, and you know, and so we were able to really go there with each other because I can mimic my aunt and my mother very well, and she loved it. And so when we did meet, we didn't meet often, but when we did, I remember consistently we extended our stay. I'm gonna call sick, and we always said we're gonna stay for 4 days together. It ends up going a week and beyond because we felt that love for each other. And she shared, we talked about religion. Oh, she was big on, no, it's not one thing, it's the spirit, and there's this and that. And I study the Bible. I love the word, the Bible. I stick with my Bible. And one day she said to me, you know, Terry, we don't have to think alike. We just have to think together. I loved it. And I use that phrase with my son. And it's the truth. Being a believer, and a lot of things that Donna spoke about was very biblically based. She just never had the address to the Bible in the Bible, and I will tell her. She's like, well, I don't know, if you say it's in Luke, it is in Luke. I just love, and up to this day, she introduced me to the composer Yanni, the Greek composer. I listened to it consistently. I mean, she taught me so much. There's one word, luxuriate. And I was like, could you stop saying that? Because you just want to do what you want to do. And she was like, but we must indulge ourselves. We have permission to indulge ourselves. I'm like, Donna, you're not supposed to eat that cake. You know, she's like, it's okay. I'll drink some water and it's going to be okay. She just, her self-indulgent, the term self-indulgent was very important to my cousin Donna. She followed the beat of her own drum, basically. She just did what she felt like doing, and that was it. I experienced her love that will linger with me. She loved freely, and she was impartial, and I know, and I'm grateful that she had, Chris, you don't get it, but I'm grateful she has her children, her grandchildren, and as I'm sitting here, each one of you that's part of her that I was able, because grieving back in Los Angeles by yourself ain't no joke. It's not fun. And this one here, I feel her love in each one of you that I've spoken with. And her divine love exceeded the boundaries of our needs. Her love exceeded beyond what I ever needed. And I have some regrets. I wish we made more time for each other. I really wish that, but hindsight, it is what it is. I'm grateful to have known her, and I'm looking forward. I'm very grateful for her children, her grandchildren, each one of you, because it's family. We get to celebrate our past. We get to celebrate our present and future. So it's not, it revolves. It's okay. I kept telling myself, it's okay, because we're revolving, and it's okay. I say without a doubt that heaven gained an angel, for sure did. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being here. I'm being selfish because you're helping me through my grief. I don't know what I can do for you, but it helps. Just seeing the faces and who she knew helps tremendously. Thank you. And we have a list here about how we're going to go about it. I just missed it here. Let me find it. I just hit my finger. Give me a minute here. I'm sure that many of you would like to share your experience that you had with Donna. I'm trying to find, Nicole sent me, give me a minute, please, be patient. Okay. Did I delete it? I'm so sorry. Hold on.
Okay. Where did Eddie go?
No, I'm in WhatsApp. I'm being nervous. I got it here. Okay, so we're going to, I'm sorry? Yeah. If anyone who like to share the memories they have with Donna, we have Sandra and Eddie who's going to follow, Brian Stone, Al Tamayo, Tricia Maker, sorry, the Dutch coming out, Jared Raycove, and Penny Carter, and Chris will also share with us experience with his mother. So in that order, if there's anybody else who would like to share, feel free to come up after these people speak, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much again for being here. Thank you so much.
Donna, what can I say about her? She was the most selfless woman I've ever known. The first time I met her, my kids were little. Nicole was little, what, 6? I think Roman was 5, 6, and they decided they were gonna do a lip sync. Yeah, my boyfriend's back with the poodle skirts and the whole bit. And I don't know how Donna pulled this off, but she made all the costumes for the girls with the poodle skirts, and down to the, you know, the actual poodle, you know, the whole yarn and everything on there, and they did their little act. And that was the first time I met her. And lo and behold, I hadn't seen her again till my brother introduced her as his girlfriend, you know. She was the type of woman that she kind of stayed in the background, but she was the one that kind of helped everything be put together, just like the poodle skirts and them getting up there, and the girls just practicing and her helping them. But she was a special woman, and I feel blessed to have known her and being a part of my brother's life and bringing joy into our life. Thank you for coming.
So my wife asked me, she goes, Nicole asked her to go ahead and speak, and so I was like, oh, that good for you, and so forth, right? And so she says, well, are you gonna go up there too? I was like, holy, excuse my language, holy shit. I'm like, oh man. I was like, give me the mic, I'm gonna go all crazy and stuff, you know. So, so yeah, Gary introduced us. He goes, Gary introduced everybody and so forth, and he goes, I want you to go ahead and meet my Donna. And so forth, right? So Donna, she has these long arms and so forth. She goes, "How you doing?" So she gives me a hug and so forth. Like, right, I didn't know this woman. So, and it was in the kitchen, right? So I just kind of bend down like this and just give her a hug and so forth, right? And 15 seconds later, she's still, give me a headlock. It's cool, it's cute, right? So I was like, all right. So I walked away and so I started smelling like roast beef. I'm like, man, so it's crazy stuff, you know. And so anyway, Gary gave me a beer. We're watching NASCAR, and all of a sudden, I just really want to make friends with her because I click with people who are nice, who are loving people and so forth, right? 4 different kind of personalities. So I sat down and I talked to Donna. Like, Donna, how's it going? And so forth. And her answer was 15 minutes long. You know? And so I'm like, man, this is my second beer already. So and I have no problem. Now, just so you know, I'm an action person. I'm a nut by nature and so forth, right? You put a person who's intellectual, numbers, and considered astronauts, and Constitution. I'll be like my cousin Tyrone. Right? You put a structured person in front of me. It's like my wife, and she'll say something like, "Hey, who moved that statue?" It's like, it's like I'll move it to piss her off, But you put a party person in front of me, like, "Oh man, we're gonna click. We're gonna have a party. Let me ask my wife." And so forth, right? But when you put a loving person like Donna in front of me, that's just one of the kind of people I love to hang around with and so forth. We'll just click, And I don't care if we have to spend hours just listening to her. Yeah. That's just the kind of person who she is, And it kind of reminds me of who I want to be if in case I want to ever divorce myself from being that action crazy. I want to be a new person. I want to be just like Donna. Yeah. Donna Starr. Yeah. And what a heck of a last name, Starr. Yeah, right. So, right. Thank you so much.
I'll go.
So Trisha, if you don't mind
Sure.
going.
My name's Trisha, and that's my sister, obviously. I have known Donna since, this is the best way I calculate it, since Nicole was 3. So there was all these little itty bitties running around, and I'm 6 years older than everybody, so that's a big gap. So maybe I was 11 and everybody was, wanting to play with, little itty bitty toys. So that was me. I was that third wheel. And every weekend growing up until I moved out of the small town, was the Stone family and the Starr family together. And so Chris and Nicole were like my siblings, even though they annoyed the crap out of me. But that's one of those experiences where maybe I had ups and downs in my life, and who do you think was there? If I was an unruly teenager, which I will admit now that I was, and I'd say, if I ended up getting kicked out for saying something, or, having such a hard head, Donna was there. And there was a point before I moved down for a little fun career down in Southern California. And I lived with them for 3 months. And I know the ins and outs, even prior to that, the ins and outs. Every weekend we'd go on vacation together. There would be some yelling match or whatever, but we were like family. And living with her is identical to what you all see. She was a very caring person. I think that she was opposite of my parents, so I knew that she wasn't gonna say no. So if there was something I wanted, she was like, okay, let's make it happen. She was a yes person, but she was so amazingly non-judgmental. And that's one thing that I have to say, that if I learned anything from her, it's to not have judgment on people. And that was just so mind-blowing to know that I am very type A. I like things very organized, and she was not. So to live with somebody like that was such an eye-opener, and it was for my betterment. We have so many stories, lots of bad ones, mean ones, and all the stuff families experience. But I'll leave you with one, and this is a reminder that we spent Christmases together. We spent New Year's, we spent Thanksgiving, Easter. Everything was with the Starr family. And there was one holiday, it was Thanksgiving, and we are all jokesters. And my mom had put a camera in the dining room, and there was a spread. I don't know if you guys remember this. There's a spread of food, Filipino, Thanksgiving, everything you can imagine is piled on the table. And no one was in there. And I love cranberry sauce. And so I walked in, and there's a video of me spooning and mixing the cranberry sauce. And what do you think I did with the spoon? And I did it a couple times. And the reason I bring that up is for you not to judge me. For one, be like Donna. And two, my mom had a sixth sense of humor that after everybody left, she'd play the video that we had no idea was being recorded. And Donna had such an infectious laugh that I was so mad at first. But then I started peeing my pants with Donna because she just kept, my mom laughed, said, I caught you. And Donna would kept saying, rewind it. And we probably rewound it probably 20, 30 times. And when you see something over and over, it gets funnier and funnier. And she was on the ground where she could not breathe. And that was Donna. Every single day of her life was happy, non-judgmental, and just a smiley person, even though I know that she had pain, but she didn't share that. And it's the smiles that are contagious. And I hope each and every one of you remember that in your life, whatever journeys you're on, to eliminate judgment, because there are good in every single one of us. And Donna absolutely portrayed that. And that's something that is a reminder for all of us. Be like Donna, hashtag.
Is Garrett wanting to speak?
Hello. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Uncle Gary's nephew, and from a young age, I basically lived with Donna at least twice in my life with Uncle Gary. On top of being there almost every other day, which probably got annoying after a while. And so when Nicole asked me to share a few things, it was kind of hard to find the best memories that I had with her. One of the main things that I want to say that I got from Donna at a young age was being very open-minded. You know, being little and being with Donna in her little Nissan truck with those two back seats that face each other. And I just wanted to go everywhere with her because she would talk and talk and talk about honestly things I really didn't understand at that age. But it was great because it was things way out of what I was hearing from anyone else. And, you know, finding someone like that at a young age that was not judgmental at all, didn't really care about anything I did, was really nice. She always told a story about, I was over at their house and she was making some steaks for Uncle Gary and Mama, and they had this hook with kind of like a weigh on it that you would see at a store, and I decided I wanted to see if it could hold 50 pounds by pulling it down. Oh my God. And Donna, you know her, she's like, yeah, go ahead, try it. And the steaks were underneath it on a plate, just made, and I pull it down and it snapped the nail and broke the plate, and the steaks went all in the water with the dishes, and she was just laughing. And she told that story a lot because she said it reminded her that hindsight is 20/20, and it's true. I've never met anyone like Donna, so pure and just happy at everything. I remember when her mother was passing and I was with her, she was still happy, even in that moment. One of the last memories I want to share is, she used to tell me the story of Chris when he would chase her around for candy, she said, when he was really young, and try and kiss her feet to get her to give him candy. And she thought it was bad for him, so she would tell him, no, and then she found out later on that he actually needed sugar. And so that taught me when I was growing up not to just assume what you know about people. And the last memory is just a fun one. When I was younger, Donna wanted to plant flowers outside, which isn't a surprise. And I was obsessed. I wanted a blue rose. And she knew that it wasn't real or that they dyed them, and she took me to Lowe's and Home Depot. We went to Visalia to look for them. We went everywhere looking for blue roses. I think she just didn't want to tell me that they weren't real. And she ended up just getting a bunch of snapdragons that we brought over here, and we planted them outside in the backyard. But if there's anything to take away from this, is that Donna is a once-in-a-lifetime soul that everyone could benefit from. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I was asked to read this letter on behalf of one of Donna's friends from her younger days in the military, Mr. Joe Adair. So I'm going to read that now. Your mom was one of the most sweetest people I've ever known in my life. We spent a lot of time together on detachments and just working together. She was the one that took me to the hospital in Fallon, Nevada in November of 1975. The two of us were there supporting airplane captains, and were busy prepping 2 planes for an early launch. It was dark out, and I slid myself off the wing and landed, breaking my ankle. 7 months later, I didn't duck quick enough, and walked right into the telling end of the wing, splitting my head open at my eyebrow, requiring 8 stitches. It was Donna again that was working, and she had to take me to the hospital again. We were very good friends, and somehow ended up in Fallon, Nevada often, and worked there for a couple years. We would drive to Reno and hit a couple bars to dance to some live bands. She was a great dancer. We never really danced together, but it was very fun. Though she did show me how terrible a dancer I was, and got me straightened out. Right. Over time, during the gas shortage, she had the idea on saving gas by not driving over 25 miles an hour. It took us a long time to go the 45 minutes to Reno that time, and on the way home, we got pulled over by a sheriff for driving too slow. Sometimes when we were working together, I would try to get her to park the airplanes a little bit better, and she would laugh and say, "Radar, sometimes you really piss me off." I was dating another girl in our squadron when your mom and Larry started dating. They seemed like the perfect couple, and I was honored to be an usher at their wedding. I met your grandma at the time and really liked her. After that, I got out and we lost track of each other. I knew your mom and dad went to Hawaii, but that was about it. In 1990, I was on a cruise with my wife, and one of our stops was St. Thomas. So I found a phone booth and scoured through the phone book looking for your grandma in hopes I might get to visit with her a little bit and find out where your mom and Larry ended up. Well, I didn't find her, so that was that. And it wasn't until we got Facebook and we linked up and found one another and made contact again. I'm sorry that this ended up so long, but I just wanted to know that I really miss Donna. I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm sure you and your family will truly miss her. We all have memories though, and I know I will treasure mine. God bless you, your girls, Chris, and the rest of your family, and give a hug to your dad from me. My last memory of spending time with Larry was when we came over to your apartment in Lemoore to swim in the pool. Turned out it was a bit green, but we took a quick trip anyways in Lemoore's summer heat. So many great memories from Joe Adair.
So at this time, we're going to open the floor to anybody that wants to speak. You're welcome to come up to the podium or stand where you're at.
Okay, I'll stand where I'm at. I get really nervous. Anyway, I met Donna later in life through the spiritual community over at Cosmic Corral when it was here. And they used to have a community discussion to where we could be able to discuss things without judgment. And the key phrase that I get from her is that it's so yummy. You know, everything was so delicious, so yummy, and I never heard that term when somebody described life. And she just said she just gotta take it all in. And you gotta take it all in. Reserve the judgment. And there's no judgment here. And when I was around her, I felt safe to discuss. And it's just that there's very few people that you can talk to about certain things that is considered unconventional. Sorry, I lost words. And it's just, like I said, I felt safe and yummy. It's a key phrase that clicked in my mind. And if you didn't talk to her for a while, she called you. She just said, "Hey, how you doing?" Left you messages. The last time I talked to her was about a year ago. And I really loved talking to her, and I told myself, I'm gonna call her. If something happens, something happens. And when I heard the news, I was like, crap, I just was kicking myself. I felt like I should have reached out to her more because she reached out to you. And I should have made that extra effort, because I think things happen in life for a reason. Because when you think about somebody, when you have a triggered memory, you reach out to them right there. And it's still saying hi. So I think we're spiritually connected. And it's just no matter what. So, and her son told me that that I must be an amazing person because I knew his mom. So, I feel really good. Thank you.
I'd like to say that Donna and I'm a neighbor of Donna's, but I met Donna first when she lived over on, now I can't remember the name of the street. Fitzgerald? No, the other street.
Vancourt.
Vancourt,
Long time ago.
Vancouver,
And then
boy.
she came closer to me, but we had so many wonderful experiences together. We traveled together to different, what would be the word? Different realities. She is one of the most wonderful people in my life. I loved her from the very beginning when she first knocked on my door. And I love her still. And I know that she is in a very happy place. I don't want to get choked up, but having known her makes me a better person. Thank you.
I would like to say ditto. We call it the hood, but y'all had them horses for a while, you know, those big dogs. And Donna would walk the dog on occasion, but usually when it got out. But she was back and forth to Maggie's, and I'm in the middle of that. And she's exactly like everything everyone said. She was the kindest, sweetest person that I've probably ever met, other than maybe Maggie. But she was more so because she talked about whatever they talk about. I really didn't understand it, but she was kind, and she was always understanding of whatever you said. She will be sorely missed.
I'd like to say a couple of things. My wife and I, Pamela, we live next to Donna and Gary. We're right here next door. You can see it over the fence. You can see over our fence for 5 years on Raymond Road. We left Raymond Road in August of 2019, but all of those 5 years that we stayed next to each other, it was constantly back and forth between us and Gary and my wife, and it was just like living in a, how can I say, put it this way, an adventure park. Yeah. You know, you never know from day to day when you see her what ride she's gonna be on. One day she's on a roller coaster and you're all crazy and this is going on. Next thing you know, she's riding gently on. You know, spreading wisdom and wise words and things that are up to you. And for the most part, what I really enjoyed about her, she talked a lot of Morse code. You had to understand her wording, what she meant, how she put it, stated it to you. And then once you leave it, you're kind of in a photo. And maybe like 30 minutes later, an hour later, you're sitting down watching TV, and you think about what she said to you an hour ago, and you just break out in laughter. And so, oh, that's what she was talking about. Because something on the television reminds you of what we've just talked about an hour ago. But it was the most wonderful 5 years that we had living next to her and Gary, my big brother over there. Yeah. Ain't he cute over there?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, but I just wanted to be brief and just say that my wife and I here, we're gonna miss her. She was our sister in Christ, sister of the world, sister in heart. And to Gary, I just want to tell you that the last time I saw you, So we're gonna get together, and we are gonna go down the Old Town Road sometime together, real soon. He knows what I'm talking about. I just want to say thank you. She's gonna be very, very missed. Now, she's in everybody's hearts here. She's running around right now somewhere over here with the dogs and running with the kids and everything else right now. That's just the way she was. She was just a free spirit. You know, you take her out of her cage and send her off, and she's gone for a long time, but then when you least expect it, she comes back to you. And I just want to say that I love her, and I know all you love her, and keep her always in your heart, because she will always remain in my heart. All right. Love you, man.
Sorry. Donna loved me so much, and we shared a lot of good memories, but the most important thing I can take from this is I've always kind of been the black sheep of my family and don't have a good relationship with my mom, and Donna found me broken, you know, and then finally when I got my head clear, I was like, hey, we've met before. But I told her that she was like one of my mothers, because I had a couple mothers that loved me like a daughter, and she goes, no, sister, I'm your sister. Because she didn't want to say she was that much older than me. So we always said we were soul sisters. But when I found out, I cried all night long. I've never felt pain like that before, so I know she's with me, and I know I'm special if she loved me. And I love her. I know she's here. Thank you.
Hi. I'm Garrett's mom. I was married to Gary's nephew for a long time. Anyway, I just want to say to Nicole and Chris and grandkids and Gary and everybody else. She was the realest, truest, brightest soul that I've ever met. And I am glad that my son had her, because my side of the family were not close. So that's his Aunt Donna. And the times that he spent with her and Gary, and the love that they showed for him, and my other two kids, like they were, Donna, those were her kids, she loved them. And I know she's with us, and I know that she'll always be with us. And she was the greatest person I've ever met. She just was happy. The last time I saw her was at Target, just literally in her pajamas, up to here, up in pajamas, up to here, and you know, excuse my language, but she didn't give a shit. She didn't. And I love that about her. My daughter's the same way. It's like, take me as I am or don't take me. And I love that about Donna, and I love the fact that she loved everybody. Like, she would talk to anybody. When people say, oh, well, they never met a stranger. Donna never met a stranger. She loved everybody, and she loved you guys so much. And she loved my son, and that's all that matters. And I really miss her, but I know she's on a higher plane right now, and she's watching all of us. So thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so at this time, we're going to invite up Donna's son, Chris.
There's a reason why I was late. This stuff is hard. When I look out at all this right here, I'm like, oh my God, that's really intimidating. Let's roll. My mom was raised on a beautiful island before the world had the internet. We were much more isolated as a people back then. The roots come from the kindness of the old world, a kindness that was shared freely. She'd always talk about patient people were, how patient people were. Her people were patient on the island. We finally went to the island when I was a kid, and that's when I understood. During high traffic, everyone smiled and waved each other in. You know, it'd be like, she would just, see how my people, just let people in, you know what I mean? This is how the world should be. Allow for people. Mm-hmm. When you go to an island, you see that. I went to Thailand and I was like, when I was in Thailand, I got to see Americans come on vacation. And every single person was at their happiest. Why? Because they were leaving the terrible world behind, right? So you see people at their peak value. On the islands, that's how my mom was. Like she was always at peak value. And that's how, this is gonna be rough. When loss came, they faced it with dignity, allowed themselves to grieve, and moved along, never forgetting those that touched their hearts. Her island is where her consciousness developed. Climbing ganip trees, she would always say that. She would always climb ganip trees, pick fruits. She walked the beach. She was there till 7 years old. And I think what happened is that perfection sunk into her soul. That's where it came from. I am 42 years old now. I remember when I was 13 and said things like, even 100 years from now is nothing in comparison to how old the universe is. A drop in the bucket. This is what my mom would say. Now I'm nearly 40, now I'm 42, and I realize that 42 is a really long time. Life is designed this way. But now that I'm finally here, I finally have perspective. You have to get old to stray away from the innocence of youth to start to feel what it means to evolve as a human being. My life is a direct correlation with my mother's, and I would like to share a little bit about my mother. To get some things off my chest. I tortured my mother when I was a kid. I wrote this part, and I thought about it later. I was like, so what I did, and I tortured my mother when I was a kid, and I'm gonna come back to this part. This is pretty good. My mother's character, how do I explain this? I think it'd be summarized as a gentle child saint. Her strength was almost never that of the oak tree, but that of the willow tree. The oak is strong, the branches bend and bow, but if the winds are too great, the oak tree will topple as it fails to bend, while the willow tree stays rooted from absorbing gale-force winds, swaying in times of change, ever gently strong. My mother was loyal to a fault, her support and affection the rarest of gems. Her peaceful demeanor, always a balm on people's souls. She was a listener in times when everyone speaks so much and says so little. Her mind moved like a ballerina, gratefully gracious, ever watching, waiting for the opportunity to offer perspective of not the issue at hand, but the larger picture. She would show that your problem was finite, an easy fix. In the infinite cosmos, what are your woes? And her words would soothe with simplicity. A genuine affection would knit the heart. For was she not a seamstress? I don't know if you guys know, she was a seamstress.
She was a good seamstress.
She was a real
I knew
seamstress.
that.
Forgiveness. My mama. The last 2 years here were rough. went 5 years to Thailand, and it was rough because I was trying to figure out myself. But while I was there, I would call her and then, Christopher, we're both going through our dark night of the soul. We were going through some rough stuff. It was everything that was leading up to, what she was going through. I said my mama is a saint, but I did my own research. Saints are not perfect. My mama was not the exception. She was downright infuriating. She was so very infuriating. Why? Mama, to me, you are the very essence of wisdom and love, the embodiment of this in the form of a human child. So why are you being such a knucklehead? These are the things that I said with her. It was hard. When I came back, I needed light. She was going through her own dark night of the soul. So for the last 2 years, they were rough. But if not for the people in this crowd, like Penny, Natalie, and there's a lot of people here, you've told your stories. And what they've done is they've strengthened me. It's really hard to go through this kind of stuff. And how do you go through it? You feel that there's a loss of everything. Love. Love is dying in the world. But it's not, it's right here. Over and over I heard, it's the right thing to see it's not right to see a loved one slowly die in a bad way. It's probably souls in a powerful way. I realized that my mama and I were not the only ones having our love tested. I was downright mean to her sometimes, but it was because I was at a loss, so scared for her well-being. And I was drained beyond explanation from my own 5-year ordeal in Thailand, fighting to still want to be in this life. But this moment is not about my struggle. This moment's for my mama. But that was the beauty of it. We were both going through our dark night of the soul. Her light had waned. Her love had been tested over and over by life, as it does to us all. She was tired, and she was ready to pass. And yet, during this time, she still had her strength. The greatest sadness I've ever faced is being in a place of great sadness, and then my mother, after great suffering, finally passed. And that's when it hit me. She's gone now. Lo and behold, I was able to let it all go. She was gone and no longer in pain. I realized something then. She knew that she was leaving this place, and she did so as if that was her last great conquest. She faced death with pristine grace. The manager at Cavalier, she was in training to be a hospice volunteer. And, she said she was meant to see my mother pass for a reason, because she's the one that found my mother. She's the one that went and helped her. She said that my mother was ready, and this brought us both great peace. I've seen so much of the world. I've been in 35 countries, lived in 3 other countries aside from America. From my mom, I found a great passion in understanding our people, our world. I've seen that people are just like us. We are all the same concept, but each of us is a perfectly imperfect, unique story. Now that my mama is gone, such a great fear lay over me for some time. I felt the absence of a person whose prolific love for love. Her powerful story has finally left this place. I was supposed to be holding in my hand a book, and I was freaking out, and I forgot to grab it. But it's a book called The Last Unicorn. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. The short of the story is this. The world was unworthy of the unicorn, and a great bull came and forced her back to whence she came, mankind to face their mortal stories alone. But this life is not a book. It's reality. And as I speak this, I look before me and see that love is the story that brings us all here. All the pain and the suffering in this world can be faced. It will be faced. And it will be us that finds victory through faith, hope, and please don't forget a little of Mama's laughter. Find her laughter in you, as my mama would always say. Laughter is the best medicine. So a ha ha ha, tee hee hee. And now I kind of wanted to say this little part because this is the. I'm not joking. I used to torture my mama. I did. I remember when times when she was crawling away from me on her hands and knees. She'd be calling, she'd be, Christopher, no more Christopher. My high school friends would be watching on, side-slitting in full guffaws of laughter. I would be poking at my fun, not poking at her, but joking along with her, just making her laugh, and she would laugh so hard that she would be on the ground, and she was like combat, walking towards the bathroom. Christopher, you're gonna make me pee! You'll make me pee! So awesome. I love torturing my mom like that. It was good. Yeah. Her unadulterated laugh was pure. It was something, I remember when I was younger, people would be like, Donna, do you really need to laugh that hard? Is it that funny? She's like, why would you not laugh that hard? Her joy was just so powerful, and I keep, I wrote all this stuff down, but now I'm looking up and I'm not reading anymore. I see that like there's a recurring thing here, I think, with everybody, right? Like she was different, but I wanted to point out what her difference was. She loved love in a magnificent way, and what I want is all of us to recognize that love was not hers. That love is all of ours. We all have that, and what we need to do right now is to remember to tap into it. These last 2 years, man, 2020 to 2020, they've been rough, right? A lot of craziness. And Dave, my buddy, right, he was like, Christopher, the world is really mad right now. We're really hurt because of all the things that have gone on. There's a lot of shit that's happening. But how are we gonna get through it? It's gonna be sources and stories like my mother, right? But remember that love is within us all. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
We have butterflies, and there are individual butterflies that Nicole's going to be passing around. We'll actually try and hand it over if you guys can pass it around.
Does
if you don't
anybody
mind.
want to do one?
We can hand it around. So when we release these butterflies, we do need to be in the sun. So we're all going to gather in the grassy area. Mainly just Nicole.